Welcome back to the channel for What Can Pop Build Today. So today my dad and I are going to teach you how to reframe this window so that we can go ahead and fit a huge window. This is actually a very large window. This is, I believe, 46 by 54. This is a master bedroom. We're actually putting in a 94 length to 46 height. And what we're looking at is we had to, number one, we had to peel away the drywall. Let's go ahead and take a look at that real quickly here. This is my mark, my initial mark of 94 inches wide. And we're coming all the way over here. Unfortunately, I had to rip that down. So I marked on the ceiling. I'm gonna be mudding and painting this. So we were doing all sorts of different marks on the house. Now, good news is I was already going to do this, and then the bad news was, but the good news is that there was a leak in this window, which caused a lot of rotting on this 2x6. So we're going to have to get rid of this 2x6. We were going to have to reframe it anyway. The footer, we're going to actually go from this kind of rinky-dinky one. Not only is it rotten though, so we had to get rid of that. We're going to actually upgrade this to a 2x6 as well. The top plate is a 2x6, and we're going to match that. Now, we're not going to run that all the way over, obviously, because the drywall is still on each side over here, but we're going to come out to this one here, or potentially all the way over here, and just run a 2x6 base plate baseboard down below, and then we'll do 2x6s because these are 2x6s here. We're going to save the insulation. We're going to put that out of the way carefully. We're going to be working with masks and gloves when touching this and sawing and cutting. We're also going to be putting in two different receptacles as well. So a little bit of electrical work while we're in the wall as well. But because you came for a framing video, let me show you number one. The home builder who built this home didn't frame this correctly. As you can see here, this header, it extends and it sits flush right up against this here. That is not correct. This actually needs to sit on top of this one here. So we're going to show you how to frame this correctly and how to safely frame this for a larger window. Same method applies if you're going smaller. You just obviously need to do your dimensions, your header for a smaller section. Pops will walk you through all the technical terms here. Now, something to keep in mind is right now we are going to be putting up a temporary wall. We're going to be putting it right about where this little line is right here. And what that's going to do is we're just going to do that out of 2x4s. We have two 2x4 times 10 length, and then we have 2x4 8 footers. We're going to cut down to size. We're going to resurrect a temporary wall. So because this is such a huge window, we don't want to get roof sagging. I don't have a second story. If you do have a second story, then definitely consult an engineer. I only have very lightweight shingles and a little bit of joists up there, but we're resurrecting this. We don't want roof sag. Better play it safe. Spend a little bit of money in 2x4s. You'll probably wind up using them later down the road. We'll show you the other materials we are using as well during this build. Now, with that in mind, you might want to look into your local code for your state for the type of header, what kind of beam you need to support that weight. Again, if you're unsure about anything, look it up. Do a little bit of research, but we're going to show you the tools, tips, and tricks to be able to get through a project like this. All right, forgive me swinging the hammer a few times, so I'm a little out of breath. This is our framing wall. We were one stud short, so we did a gap, so ignore that. That's 24 inches. 16, 16, 16, 16, 16, 16, 10 long 2x4. And this, you want it nice and snug, even a little over snug. And that again is going to lift up our wall. But remember, before you do, we have to actually plan. I don't think we're going to lift the window from the outside. So I think we're actually going to need to bring the large window in, lean it up against that window while we resurrect this wall. And we're actually going to nail this wall temporarily into the subflooring, and that's going to stop roof sagging on us. We're going to be right back to the video, but I want to thank today's sponsor, which is Manscaped. They've come out with amazing new products, and of course, their brand new Lawnmower 4.0 Performance Package comes with a set of boxers that I highly recommend you pick up more of these. I wear these pretty much every day until I'm out, then I got to throw them back in the washing machine. Super comfortable, great for training. The Lawnmower 4.0 Performance Package also comes with your ears and nose trimmer. All your other goodies as we can see here. And of course your Lawnmower 4.0 with LED light and ceramic blade. Waterproof, so you can use it in the shower. I have full tutorial videos on this channel, and we'll link that below as well. They also have their brand new straight razor and body wash. These are just a few of the new products I've gotten my hands on. If you want to see their full lineup, it's my direct link below. It's going to take you straight to the website. The code will be automatically applied for you. Get whatever you want, as little or as much as you want. Enjoy your products, guys. They're great products. I highly recommend them. So head below after the video is done. So as you can see, that's a monster window, 94 inches across. So even if we were to vertically tilt it vertical, we wouldn't be able to get that window by unless we played some sort of definitely Tetris game, especially how tight that is. We did not want to lift it, plus I have an aspen tree on the other side of this, so we're going to be lifting the window from that direction. So the window's there. We have enough space to work to demo the wall. We'll show you. Now we're going to lift up this wall. We'll show you that when it's in place. All right, guys, we got the framing in. We were about a 1/4 inch too tight, so watch your measurements. You want it tight, but you don't want it this tight. Again, we were about a 1/4 inch off. We got it plumb, meaning we took our level, go up against your 2x4s, and we're actually slightly, and we're pretty much plumb. Again, this is a temporary wall. That's about 99.8% plumb. Good enough in my opinion. So we got the 2x4s up. Again, that's a 10-foot piece. I'm gonna be skim coating the top with at least 2 coats. Unfortunately, with the sledgehammer, we used a 2x4, so we didn't destroy the wood too much. Ceiling took a little bit of a beating, a couple missed swings. So it's better to be precise where you just knock it into place with a 2x4. And what I mean about that is you just grab a small little sledge like that, put your block of wood like that over the side so you don't destroy that wood, and knock it into place. That'll save you a little bit of excess energy, not to mention some roof work if you are a 1/4 inch too much. Okay, coming down here, we have 3-inch duplex nails into our subflooring, which is OSB, and this is what the duplex nails look like. Again, 3 inches because we're going through a 2x4 into the subflooring. We're going to be doing a little bit of floor patch work. We did have to rearrange it. That's what your hole looks like, pretty small. And we put 1, 2, 3, and 4 of those nails in. Now for the joists, we have 3-inch screws. We're going to go through the drywall, and our joists in this case are about 2 feet apart. So we're gonna go from the joist that we know is visible right there. You can also use a stud finder or a magnet if your drywall has screws, which most homeowners have drywall screws. Find your joists, which some people call studs. Studs are in your walls, joists are in your ceiling. Find your joists, and we're gonna go ahead and put a couple screws in there. In each joist, I should have 5 joists. I believe at least 4. This is a 10-foot piece. If they're spaced 2 feet out apart, I might be a couple inches off of one or the other on that side, but I'll at least be able to tack in 4 joists on the top and the bottom. That means your temporary wall is not going anywhere while we demo the exterior wall. Now, for those of you guys who already asked the question, why are you lifting it up from the inside? The window is because this particular window doesn't have a window flange, which means that we are not nailing it to the outside. If it had a flange around the edge, all the way around with some little nail holes, it's called a window flange, attached to it already, then of course we would be lifting it from the outside. But since this does not have one, and the screws are actually on the inside of the sill, now obviously the other side opens up. This would be the outside portion. But once you open up the sills, there are 3 holes in the side. 3 screws once again, at top, middle, and bottom. And that's on the right sill, and that's also on the left sill. We're going back in time. Now let's go back to the build. The window flange is actually a great method as well. There's another window I will be putting up in the house that does have a window flange, but in that case you would have to lift it up from the outside. So this gives us plenty of room here. I am going to have to once again rip up a little bit more subflooring down here. We'll be back with you for a demolition. Alrighty guys, next step we pulled out all the insulation out of our paneling here on either side, and let's go ahead and walk you through our next step here. We did that on the bottom bottom and the right side here as well. We're going to be reusing that. So we just bundled it up and put it over here in the corner and stacked it over there as well. That's going to save some money. And I think what I'm also going to do here is I want to go ahead and upgrade this sheetrock to 1/2 inch sheetrock for better insulation as well, especially if I have the whole entire wall already disassembled. Mine as well. I will have to pull off this panel and that small panel and then put 1/2 inch all the way across. I won't use too many sheets, probably only 2.5, 3 max because the window's so large. I'll use some down at the bottom, top, over on the right and left side. So again, we're going to be using a 2x6 as our footer right over here. We're going to take up that footer. We're going to take out the rotten wood here. We're going to save this one here. We're going to save this one here, this 2x6 and this 2x6 for our header short pieces when we do our new header and when we do our lower portion here as well. So let's go ahead and go to the outside here, but let me show you how we measured before we're going to go ahead and cut our wall here. Now this is our outer wall right here. We're doing this during good weather during Colorado, so make sure that you are doing this in fair weather, especially if you are going to be removing that big of a portion of your wall and window. Might get a little cold. So our window, we measured from the thickest point right here down. We did not measure the foam. We just measured the top point down to the bottom, and we added a 1/2 inch. That's for your height and your width as well. So with that, we made our measurements. We found out exactly how high we want to come up and centered. We also measured the center point of our room. This window was 3 inches off, not centered. We found our center line here, and we determined after measuring our precise window that this is going to be our point right here. We put a nail in it. We used a level plumb, put a nail up here as well. We actually drilled through and then put a 16 penny nail in there. So we just drilled a hole through the wall, put a 16 penny nail in there. We did the same thing over here on this side, but we did it on the exterior portion right here. Let's go ahead and show you that. So this is what the exterior looks like right here with our nails coming out the top there. We also used a framing square to make sure we were nice and plumb on each side. We also used a chalk line, and we found out that we were level by using a 4-foot level, and we snapped a chalk line, which is the red line coming on the top of the window and the bottom across the screen all the way over here on this side. We do have an aspen tree that's kind of blocking our way, but we're working through that. We snapped a chalk line up here, and again, this is a 1/2 inch larger all the way around for our wiggle room, etc. As you can see, our nice square line here, and over here on this side here with our level, and then we used a marker to go ahead and head all the way up top. I am going to be repainting anyway, but regardless, all this on the interior portion is going to go. You can try to reuse some of that if possible, if you really want to. But as you can see here, we're going to have a larger gap up top because this window is actually narrower, and we're going to have a little bit of a gap right here. So we're going to use some of those scrap pieces to fill in this bottom portion and top portion. I do have some extra sheets of this in my storage, so we're okay on that one. Now, this is more of a modern window with a newer technology on it that has the flange, the window flange around it. Because what this does, this actually slips on the outer portion, sealing up that area using your window tape, etc. And then you nail in these little areas here. This large window we are using does not have the window flange like I mentioned earlier. And the good news of that as well is that we can lift it up from the interior portion, not the exterior, because if we were to lift up that window, we would have to come in from angle around the aspen tree, and I really love these aspen trees and I don't feel like cutting them down. And so this larger window that we do have without the flange is going to be an easier install, not to mention we are higher up inside. We are much higher up, where here we'd have to muscle that up pretty high in order to get that huge window up there. But as we can back it up here, you can see the lines coming all the way down here, over here, up here, and over. and that is going to be the master bedroom new window comparison to the old one. So it's going to be gorgeous. Actually, it is November right now, but these go into full bloom, aspen trees, not to mention a grove right here with the mountains that direction. That's why I wanted a larger window. All right, my friends, let's go ahead and give you an update here. What you're seeing there on the outside of the wall is a mover's blanket and a tarp. We had some cold weather come and we weren't able to get the window up quick enough. Today is 59, 60 degrees, so it's a great work day. But the other day it got down to the high, I think was like 33, so it was a little chilly. This did a great job. All I did is I nailed a mover's blanket and a tarp on the exterior portion of the house. So now the temporary wall is going to come down, but again, do not take down the temporary wall until this is complete. This is what our header looks like here. Let's go ahead and talk through this real quickly. This is a 2x6 with 1/2 inch spacer in between. And then we got a nice thick, I believe it's a 6x4, 6x6. I can't remember the size off the top of my head right now for some oddball reason. But instead of going with one humongous chunk, we actually went with 3 different pieces of wood. And it's looking absolutely fantastic. We've done a few new 2x6 notches up above. We're gonna shove our insulation back in as well. The header's looking fantastic. Coming around to the sides here, this is what it needs to look like. That is proper carpentry right here. Sure, we have a little bit of a gap there. We tried our best. It is what it is, but we're not too concerned about that. The header needs to lay on this piece right here, which is going to come down to the bottom. So we'll get into the framing portion down below when this window is gone, or I should say it's going to be installed today. Up here we have another helper coming. We also are going to be putting in a couple new electrical boxes, as you can see here, running our wire properly through the middle. Previous manufacturer did it on the outside. But just talking about this right here, we have a full 2x6 running all the way down to the footer down here, and then the interior portion one is what rests the header on, and then all your framing on top there. Okay, anyway, let's break this wall down. We're probably gonna reuse this for other windows. Now with that said, things that we learned is give yourself plenty of room to work with on the interior portion of your temporary wall. This temporary wall right here, a good solid, I'd say 3.5 feet away from the edge, worked out just fine. We had no slouching at all. Again, I wasn't too concerned. There's nothing heavy above it. If you have a 2-story house, definitely consult an engineer before you try to mess around with something like this. This is a big task. It's not very hard. It's just a lot of steps that you do have to follow. With my dad and his skill set, it definitely helped out tremendously without a doubt. So with that said, give yourself plenty of room because we were pulling boards, all that kind of nonsense. This window was up against that. So if this was the original line we were going to take the temporary wall up to, that would have been way too little of room. So just give yourself plenty of room to work with. All right, guys, let's go ahead and walk through the window here. It is installed now. It took 3 of us to lift this guy up, and we actually lifted it up from the outer portion, which I didn't think we were going to do, but it made the install a little bit easier. So let's talk about that because it did not have a window flange around it. Again, this is a monster window and it improves this bedroom tremendously from that small window. So let's go ahead and take a look right now. Number one, it's a beautiful day. So Pops came up with a great idea before I take them all off. We have blocks all the way around. As we can see here, there's still some blocks that are right here, there, and then going up the edge there. And then we had them on the upper portion right here, all measured precisely for how far we wanted the window back from the edge of the siding. And so as we lifted it up from the outer portion, we slid it in flush up against all these blocks. And then on the interior portion of the sliders, you see the screw hole 1, 2, and 3 below. Each side has that. I can't find any other points in this window. 1, 2, and 3 down here as well. Again, this is a pre-owned window. I don't see any other screw holes for up above or down below, even underneath this, which I do have to clean, by the way. But under that little portion of vinyl, I don't see any screw holes at all either. Anyway, that doesn't concern me. It's screwed into the studs with 6 screws, 3 on each side. And as you can see here, the window opens up just like that on each side with the screen. So let's take a look at the framing before we drywall it up. And then we're gonna get to the final portion of the finished window install with our window tape, etc. So down below, we had to use a few shims, but we've already talked about how we went with a new footer over here on this portion, pulled out the rotting. It's a 2x6. And we have all our 2x6s coming right through here. And then we have a full 2x6 all the way to the top right here. And then we have a 2x6 holding up again our header here, going all the way down to the footboard. We've already talked about our beam, and the same thing over here on this side. Once again, a full 2x6 all the way from the footer up to, you can call that a header, I guess, not really, but the top plate. And then we have, again, a 2x6 right here holding up our header, going all the way to the footboard down below here. Our sill comes right off of our, I believe my dad called these jack studs, right here and here, coming all the way here, framing square that up. And the same portion over here, it butts up right against there. With this size of a window, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 jack studs, with each side again having the 2x6s. On the top, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, something that we were super blessed with is we didn't have to use any shims below. Once we lifted that up and slid that in, using our level, we are completely level all the way around the top, the sides, and the bottom as well. If you aren't level, you need to use some shims and level your window out. But again, we were super blessed with having a beautiful level surface to go with. Having our 1/2-inch gap all the way around came in beautifully. That gives you wiggle room. And of course, we will be putting in our Loctite expanding foam to seal in that gap. The top is really flush. The sides right here, there's a little bit, and a little bit right here, as you can tell, right through there, and down here as well. But expanding foam will take care of that gap and keep all the cold air out. All right, for this portion right here, this is the exterior of the house. There is our window tape right there. They sell it in a 6 and 9-inch. We went with the 9-inch, and it was a little tricky. I'll explain it in a little bit about the siding. We'll get to that. But what you see below is actually fire and ice below the tape, and that is actually roofing material, waterproof roofing material below. Typically we use Travac or something like that, and that actually will do the same exact thing as in giving your undersheet a waterproof material. It's just what we had on hand. It was free. My dad gave it to me from a previous roofing project, and because it is the same method, it's going to work just fine. Here is the tape. We have overlapped it and put it underneath the siding. As you can see right there, we've overlapped it 4 inches from the corners, and then we stuck it as far as we could that direction there because the previous manufacturer doesn't have any tape or any waterproof material underneath the siding. So we did our best to shove it as far back as we can. It would be obviously a lot easier if there was no siding already on the house. All right, guys, let's take a closer look at the window as we now have our external panels on. Now, the previous shot I wanted to talk about, we were in kind of a rush to do it before dark, but we decided to use fire and ice instead of Travac, however you pronounce it, the waterproof sheeting. The reason why is because if I was going to take off all this siding, then obviously we would do that. We already had fire and ice roofing waterproof material, so we decided to use that. The same method applies. We just stapled it up there. We put our window tape all the way around the top and bottom, as we did see as well, tucking it underneath the side panels, each right here and here. Obviously, this is a lot easier if there's no panels there, but because there are panels, we had to kind of slip it in those cracks. We made it work. Not the easiest thing in the world, but we did make it work. We have all our nails into our studs here. We're looking fantastic. If you did mess up on some of the nail holes, you're going to need to take some waterproof caulking, fill in those nail holes, to make sure that you are nice and watertight. As you can see, there's a very slight gap still right here, but we're going to be putting some trim and some caulk in there before we do put the trim on. We're going to fill all that small gap up. Some areas it's a little larger than others, but we're going to fill in this whole area with caulk underneath the bottom here as well, and all the sides. Now on the interior portion, we're going to be putting the Loctite expandable foam on the interior portion, and we're probably going to keep that dangling down a little bit for water distribution, and then we're going to flatten that down, and then I'm going to put a new strip of trim down here at the bottom as well. This is just to defer all water down, and we're going to be using DAP's Dynaflex Ultra Advanced Exterior. This is in the black color. Reason why is because I will be painting this window black, and so I'm going to fill in all the gaps, and if any gets on the window, no harm, no foul. 1 hour rain and paint ready. I'll try to have this linked in the description box below of the video as well. So I'm going to go ahead and fill out that whole entire gap. Again, exterior. All right, I actually ran out of exterior caulk, so I'm going to have to go back for another 2. Definitely pick up 2 of them up, especially if you have a gap. The gap on the outside will show you in the daylight. Turned out beautiful. Now, the interior portion, unfortunately, this expanding foam is super messy, and I'm not a really big fan of, to be honest with you. I know you can scrape it down, cut it down. If you have a really major gap, sure, it's going to be fantastic, but I just thought it was super messy. You can't really control it too much out of the valve. And so any like itty bitty gaps like that, it's just going to be way too messy in my opinion. But we do need to fill that in because I haven't done the exterior portion with caulk yet. So I'm feeling the slightest little coolness up here. As the sun's going down, it is a little bit cooler up there. So once I do the exterior, and then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and shoot interior caulk on the inside of this here. I have DAP's Stretch High Performance. Right here, I'm going to be using on the interior portion. Again, the big gaps, sure, I'm going to go ahead and, when that fully dries, cut that down. We'll put some trim in there. Again, just my personal opinion, I think it's super messy. Here is a clean streak here. If you can regulate the flow, that turned out a little bit better, but still I'm going to have to cut that down for a flush piece of finishing trim. It did work okay. Of course, it kind of overflowed for the major gaps in the corners. Then do it. If you're doing fine detailed work, I would be very careful. Good news is if you get it on your window after it dries, you just take your fingernail and scratch it off. We'll work with it a little bit more, but I'm not even going to think about trying to touch this little itty bitty gap down here. I'm going to use caulk, DAP's interior caulk for that. Again, we were blessed with having a nice streamline bottom part. Anywho, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and put back the insulation. We're going to be putting one more outlet down here. So I'm going to just do a little bit of it on the bottom part, but I'm going to go ahead and do all the header, the sides, and then fill that rest that portion in down here after we put in the other outlet electrical box. All right, the exterior caulk is all ready to roll all the way around the big gaps, the small gaps. I even touched up a few little missed nail holes as well. We're going to be painting the siding, so I'm not too concerned about that. And if you are wondering, this is how the siding comes from the store. This is it painted. I'm going to actually do white. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Some parts got a little bit messy, but we are going to be having trim probably up to this line right there. And not to mention, I wasn't too concerned about how clean it was. Again, you can use the white color if you want to. Most people have white vinyl, but this window will be painted black, so I wasn't concerned at all about going too high as long as it's smooth and textured nicely. Again, filling in all the major gaps. The small gaps here is a little bit more of a major gap here coming all the way through. That's going to seal it nice and tight, weatherproof it, and then all you have to do is put your trim on. This window is going to be eventually replaced here, but as you can see here, this is a little bit too thick of a trim. I think I'm going to go a little bit smaller than that, but see, as you frame the exterior portion of the window, I'm going to be replacing this one with a vinyl and then putting another one right next to it. So you're going to make sure you want to be subscribed for all the rest of the house projects. And then on the interior portion, you can see we have filled in all our gaps with insulation. Nice and tight packed all the way down. We were doing some electrical work, so we need to go ahead and fill in this gap as well. I'm going to be doing a little bit of subflooring from the old window. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of goop and gabber. We're going to pull that up, put a new little sheet of subflooring down before we do eventually put our luxury vinyl planks in. Here we have the insulation again, all the way up to the top boards there, filling it in just beautifully, nice and warm. Here is our spray foam, and I did make the mistake of trying to do a little bit of cleaning while it was still wet. Good news is that if you do get it on your vinyl window, it just scratches right off, which is great. And then go ahead and take your utility knife, and you want to go ahead and cut that nice and flush. Because what we're going to do here is we're actually going to be finishing the trim. That won't be on this video, but we're going to be finishing the windows, putting some nice interior trim on, putting it right here as well, having it gap out just a little bit. I've seen some nice little finish carpentry for windows. So we're going to clean up that spray foam. And as we clean that up, any small gaps I didn't want to deal with the spray foam, we're going to caulk all the way back there. We do have a weather seal as well, but we're going to caulk all the way around the whole entire window where the spray foam was just too messy to get on. Down here, we're going to caulk all this. And then the exterior, we're going to caulk the trim as well. We're going to make sure this place is weather tight, weatherproof, no little drafts coming in from the gaps or anything like that. That's why we caulk the outside. We're going to caulk the interior. I'm going to take it a step further, and I'm going to finish all the window with, I believe this is 1/4 inch drywall, very flimsy drywall, unfortunately. 1/2 inch is what I want, but because this is Colorado in the wintertime, I want to make sure I'm nice and toasty in here, so I'm going to finish that with 1/4 inch, and then I've purchased some 1/2 inch that I'm going to finish the whole entire thing over, so it's going to be, I believe that's 5/8, don't quote me on that one, 3/4 total, with 1/4 and 1/2, I think that's 3/4, so it's going to look really sharp. Thank you so much again for watching the video. Thank you to Manscaped for sponsoring this video. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button on your way out. It helps the channel and the YouTube algorithm. Hopefully you've picked up a tip or two from Pop and I as we do this project, and make sure you're subscribed for the full 10-acre farmhouse ranch build with disc golf course. If you can see the disc basket over there, I'm planting trees, Douglas firs, ponderosa pines. We're going to be eventually doing behind the moving truck over here. There is a heated 2,400 square foot shop. We're going to be putting a gym, the works. Make sure you subscribe for all that. Thank you guys so much for watching. The window is beautiful. It turned out stunning in my opinion. Absolutely stunning views, sunset, not to mention the mountain range right here. It just makes this room so much better. We'll see you on the next one. Take care for now. Bye-bye. Don't let the party stop, guys. Hit one of these videos, continue to watch, and we'll see you soon.